how did I change myself, and then how did he change, kind of thing, after that process. Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot of regret there for me because um, I don't know if most boys are this way with their dads, but there was a lot of respect that I had for my dad, and although he went through a pretty traumatic issue with his health, having a quintuple bypass, it didn't cause my actions to change. My feelings changed inside. I was very much more aware of the fact that my dad was not immortal. When I saw the fear in his eyes in that hunting blind, and telling me the story of how he told his doctor, I got to do, and so there was the immortality was washed away for the first time, and so internally I felt that, and it was a change. It was definitely a change in me, but I think physically my outward reaction to him, it didn't change, and I probably wish it would have. I wish I would have been. I wish my emotions would have spoken more through my actions. But at the same time, I am my father's son. You know what I mean? And that's who he was his entire life. He didn't live his actions through his emotions. You just knew, and which I guess this is the first time that I've said this, but as I'm speaking this, it makes me realize that he knew. Just as much as I knew that when he shook my hand going to college, instead of giving me a hug saying, "I love you," he gave me a firm handshake, patted me on the shoulder, and said, "Don't screw this up." Just in that moment where I knew what he was really telling me, makes me feel better that it wasn't the physical change that he was needing to see. He knew emotionally that I had changed with him through that process. For him, um, did he change? Absolutely. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I've taken from my dad in this entire process is when he went in for his quintuple bypass. He didn't say anything to anybody. He didn't make it a goal. He didn't put it on his mirror. He didn't write it down. He didn't say it aloud 10 times. I mean, it wasn't anything like that. It was an internal uh, conquest that he recognized a very important and very intense moral characteristic that needed to change about who he was as a man. And it makes me just think that we get to a point in our life where that type of characteristic becomes like so powerful that you make at the age of 60, the old you can't teach an old dog new tricks, bull honky, right? Because I witnessed it, and I saw a man that never had smooth hands. The guy always had calluses on his hands. He could still outwork me at the age of 60. You take a man that's raised on an Iowa farm, as an Iowa farm boy, and that is a spitting image of you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I witnessed firsthand him going through a moral characteristic flaw that he realized he had, and he, in an instant, he decided he needed to change it. And it was almost like he woke up from a surgery, which was not a very pleasant thing when you have heart surgery. I mean, you can't eat. You've got this tube down your throat. It was apparently just a horrible experience. And from that day moving forward, I saw the characteristic of the firm handshake, the pat on the shoulder, everything that I knew about him to say "I love you," but without the actual words or physical reaction. He decided to change that in a moment. And the last 6 years of people that I've met, that I've listened to, that have told me stories about meeting my dad, that didn't know my dad prior to his heart surgery, that have come up to me and told me stories about how he's just this huge hugger, and man, your dad gives the best hugs. I used to always look forward to seeing your dad because, man, he would just make me feel so welcome. He'd hug me. Every story I'd hear about that was like this. It wasn't just a tug. It was a yank on my heartstrings about the lesson that I should be learning from my dad. That when it's the right thing to do, when you have a characteristic flaw, It's hard for everybody to change. But if it's the right thing to do, you wake up every day and you make the emotional, physical, and spiritual choice to change the action that you know not to be right anymore. And it doesn't take practice. It doesn't take work. He just woke up and did it. And literally it was like the next day, start hugging everybody. And for the next 6 years until he died, that's everywhere he went, he hugged people. And he started hugging me. He did. And that was big for me, big for my brother as well and my family. But yeah, it's different to talk through it now, because I know now that I've talked through it, it helps me realize that although my physical reaction to him didn't change, emotionally I did, I know he knows what that was for me. But for him, I guess wisdom comes with age. He was stronger than me. And instead of hiding the physical change, he acted on it immediately. And that's a life lesson I hope to teach my kids, yeah. I think every logical person, especially men, ladies too, but in this scenario, every logical man evaluates our actions based on results. And as we get older, are we going to do this? And if we do this, what is it going to give us? And when I look at the life that my dad lived and the choices that he made, as hard as his choices were, I have now a snapshot image of what that lifestyle results in. When I look at the feedback of those that attended his funeral, the 1,000+ people that showed up, the media press that went global, the stories that I've heard from people that share things with me about, like the homeless guy with the cans in his truck. There's 100 stories like that I've heard, and I continue to hear. But I've witnessed all the choices that he made, and instead of wondering what the outcome of those choices will be, now I know what the outcome of those type of choices create. And it's a result of good character. It's a result of you create respect from people. People love you. Although that you might come across as a stern guy making stern and firm decisions, people respect that. They might not tell you in the moment. They might badmouth you because they don't agree with you, but deep down they really know that you're making a decision that based on what's right for either your family, your business, or your kids, or whatever. They know. I mean, people aren't stupid. And although in the moment we might doubt that type of decision because what are people going to think of us, now I've got a snapshot of what I know exactly what people think of a man that makes the right decisions in the hardest times of your life. And it is almost, I almost wish that people would listen to this message and truly understand it, because I feel now that I have a one-up. I feel like I have a cheat card, because it is crystal clear to me that making the right decision, that living with good character, that refusing to associate with people that steal, lie, or cheat, or condone people that do, the result of that is good, period. You might not receive that in your life, but the repercussions, the ripple effect of the lives that you will change because of it is all good.